Hey, I want to thank our new sponsor, Plutonium. Yes, Plutonium. If you're trying to heat your house, forget about solar or gas. Use Plutonium.
Hi, this is 50/50, real estate podcast for the common man, where we talk about selling, buying, and investing in real estate. We aren't baffling you with BS. We're dazzling you with brilliance. We're not telling you how to become a millionaire. We're telling you stories, the truth, and the information no one is talking about. So sit back, listen, laugh, and enjoy 50/50, real estate podcast for the common man.
Hey, everybody. JD here. Hope you're looking good and feeling fine. Hope you had a great holiday season with friends, neighbors, relatives, and acquaintances. We are going to be discussing 2023, the year behind us. And, so many people I talked to during the holidays, he said, JD, you were wrong. You were wrong. We've been listening to your podcast all during the year. And I really super appreciate all the people who have subscribed, listened, emailed me, talked to me about the podcast. I really super appreciate it. Always try to be different in my podcast last year and this year. I look at what everybody's talking about, and I just don't want to talk about what everybody else is talking about. Try to find things that are kind of new and different, or maybe just give it a fresh perspective about it. So I like to thank all my listeners out there. I think I've been doing this for 3 or 4 years now. Time goes by fast when you're having fun. But I just wanted to thank everybody for hanging in there. Sometimes I get a little silly. Sometimes I get a little obnoxious. Sometimes I get a little serious. But I try to mix it up. And that's why it's called Real Estate for the Common Man, because I don't want to deal with, educated Wall Street bankers. I want to just deal with the common guy, the guy that's just working 9 to 5, trying to sell his home, trying to buy a home, trying to buy an investment home, that isn't a Harvard graduate, that's just like an average person. So I try to keep my podcasts into just simple, everyday, common man, woman subjects. So talking to a lot of people, getting their emails and so on, a lot of people were saying, JD, you missed the mark last year. You were saying the houses were going to collapse, there'd be tons of foreclosures, the sky is falling, so on and so forth. And I have to admit, I kind of was wrong last year, but after selling real estate for 35 years, I usually can predict relatively pretty much the housing trends, but I kind of blew it last year, and I was like, what did I do wrong? There's something I'm not seeing and nobody else is seeing. And the argument, that I got with a few people is, well, we'll be driving around towns and it looks like, look at all the building. They're building here and they're building there, and they're building apartments and they're building single family homes and townhomes. If the market was bad, why didn't the builders just stop? Why are things still selling? And I scratched my head. I said, nothing's making sense. I can see when the interest rates were 2-3%, people were overbidding on these homes. If you bought a home in the past 3 or 4 years, you pretty much are buried in it now, because housing did go down last year, but not as much as I predicted. I was thinking 15-20%. It went down about 5%, which isn't really that much. But interest rates went way up. We were looking at, all close to about 8%, and now they're going down, and they'll probably go down next year too. Every election year, they want you to forget about the terrible economy in the past 3 or 4 years, and they will go into low interest rates, lower gas, lower food costs, because they want to make you vote for them and say, see, the economy's doing great. We really got over the high inflation and high interest rates, and happy days are here again, because they want you to vote for them. And then once you vote for whoever you vote for, and they get in the office, all of a sudden everything they say is thrown out the window and it goes ugly again. It's just the nature of politics, I guess. But like I said, I looked really closely to what was going on last year. And I looked at Redfin and Zillow and our local MLS, and I started to see a trend, and I said, that's what's going on. You hear, folks, lack of inventory. That's why the housing market hasn't collapsed. Lack of inventory, and people are still buying. And I started looking at what caused, we still have a little bit more inventory than we did at the beginning of the year, but it's not as dramatic as what I thought. And I started thinking, why? So I started looking at a lot of the data, and it hit me like, what do they say, a baseball bat. It was really deceiving, because I looked at a lot of homes that were up for sale, and they were all overpriced. All of them. I look at the price, I go, they came down on price, 30, 40,000. Some sellers were just messing around, $500,000 home, we're going to lower the price $3,700. They're not going to sell their home when they're still $100,000 overpriced. But I started looking at this, and I started seeing, price deductions, $35,000, $40,000, $50,000. And after the price deductions, like over the 90 days, let's say they listed their homes and then their homes were on the market for 90 days, all of a sudden, they were off the market. And I said, good grief, how could people afford this? We're not looking at 2.5% interest rates. We're looking at 7%. And then I started looking at it, and I looked at the inventory, and I thought, no wonder the lack of inventory. It wasn't that nobody was selling their homes. It's nobody could sell their homes. So what happens is, what I looked at the data, and I saw that real estate agents who were, not really experienced, maybe they got in the market 4 or 5 years ago, were using the data, going to the MLSs, punching in the MLS, and all the MLS statistics and algorithms were looking at previous sales. It wasn't taking into effect that we were in a false economy with a false interest rate in a false, housing market. They were just looking at the past and saying, hey, here's what your house is worth. So what we were getting is we were getting overpriced homes, just like what we were doing 3 or 4 years ago. But the difference that they were not taking in consideration is the interest rates had doubled. So, payments that were like $2,000 4 or 5 years ago, even though they were paying $200,000-$300,000 overpriced, they now, with the same price, they were paying $5,000, $6,000 a month. People couldn't afford it. But except the real estate agents and except the sellers being on top of it, they were just going, oh, yeah. I know my house is worth, let's say, $700,000. because 5 houses in the neighborhood with friends I knew and neighbors that I did the past 3 years, they all sold their homes for $700,000. But they weren't taking in consideration, like I said, false economy, false interest rates, false housing market. So they were listing their homes at the same price that 3 years ago, but the interest rates were so darn high. So now it's almost double the payment, I mean, almost triple the payments of what it cost 3 years ago. Nobody can afford it. So what I did is I looked at everything and I started seeing kind of lower, like they would lower their price, but it was a joke. It's like, this house is $150,000 over what it should be. And what they did is they lowered it $25,000. You're like, okay, they lowered it $25,000. It's still $150,000 over price. They should lower this $150,000, $100,000, but no one's doing that. So as I looked, what I saw is canceled contracts, canceled listing contracts, taken off the market, expired listings. What was happening is a lot of these sellers couldn't get what they thought and just took their houses off the market, which decreased the inventory, but the homes that were coming on the market with people that were just putting up their homes kind of made the market kind of stable, so you didn't see a big, huge crash. And the reason why is because the people that couldn't sell the homes with what they thought took them off the market, and the people who were still in dream world of 3 years ago was putting on the market. So you saw this steady inventory and you didn't see the prices go down because the inventory never went up and never really went down. It just kind of maintained. But then people were saying, well, then why do you see buyers buying these homes? You know, the builders are buying it. And I looked at everything and I said, you know, there's naive buyers out there, many who were looking at purchasing homes in 2023, you know, and they were paying these outrageous high prices. But what was happening is the builders were paying $75,000 to $100,000 incentives to get these low interest rates of 4 or 5%, and they weren't decreasing the prices of the home of what they should be in today's market. They were still pricing them of what they were 3 years ago, but you got these naive buyers who had no clue what they were doing, going, oh, look it. Wow, we've been out looking at resale homes and they're all 6 and 7, 8% interest rates. We can buy this new home for half the interest rate, get a brand new home, and they were just looking at payments. They weren't looking at the housing prices. So what you see in 2023 is the reason why the housing market didn't go down is you had a bunch of naive buyers getting sucked in and believing that it was such a great market to buy in, preferably new homes, that you had these new home builders giving outrageous incentives, and the naive buyers were buying it because they thought, wow, look, we can buy a brand new home, we can get a low interest rate. The sellers, I mean, there was a couple of new home builders that said, hey, if you don't want us to buy the interest rate down and give you a 4.5%, we'll give you $75,000 to $100,000 worth of incentives. And, you know, the people were buying it. Well, like I said, they weren't looking at the market. They were not looking at the price of the home. They were looking at, I can afford this payment. It's a great deal. Let's buy it. And that's why the market didn't go down. It went down a little in 2023 is because you didn't have smart, educated buyers, you had naive, gullible buyers that were listening to real estate agents saying, "Oh, it's a great time to buy. Look at all this building around here. Oh man, look at how everybody's buying here." And then they go in and they see that there was these massive incentives, and they would go, "Wow, let's buy this because we can get the same payment that we would have got 3 years ago, and we're going to have a buy a new house." Well, 3 years ago, they were buying the interest rates. They weren't buying the value. The values are so overpriced. And today, in 2023, it's now 2024, they were doing the same thing. They were not looking at the value and the price of a home. They were just looking at the interest rates. And people are going to be buried in these things. I mean, it's going to take 15 years before these people are going to be able to get out of their homes. And the reason for it is they didn't buy value. They didn't buy price. They bought interest rates. And when these people lose their job, I'm predicting this. So I might be wrong again, but I'm predicting there's going to be a lot of job losses in 2024. A lot of people will holding off. Holiday season's over. They're going to use or look at year-end profits, and it's not going to be the major profits they thought. They're going to be laying off people in construction, in housing. I see so many lending mortgage companies wrapped up. I just saw one close. It said we are closed, permanently. A lot of that. Also, I was talking to somebody and they said, you want to know what the economy is? Start looking at Craigslist or these, places where you can sell your home or the flea market. There's going to be a lot of construction workers who are selling their tools because the construction jobs are going to be gone and so on and so forth. So that's probably going to be happening here soon. And then I looked at the resale homes, like I was saying, and like I said, if the market was so hot, I was saying, why doesn't these resale homes not selling? They were, like I said, off the market, expired listings, canceled, and the reason why is these sellers can't give the incentives that the builders are. I mean, if the sellers bought these homes for, overpriced prices in the past 4 or 5 years, and then they try to sell them and they try to think, oh, my home's really only worth $600, but I'm going to ask $750 and nobody's buying it. They can't pay $75,000 to $100,000 with incentives to buy the interest rates down, plus pay all the commissions and so on and so forth. So they figure, I'll just take my house off the market and then maybe they'll sell in 2024. It isn't. If it's not going to sell in 2023, trust me, it will never sell in 2024 unless you get really real and you lower the price to what it should be. But a lot of people don't. They say, well, I'm not going to lower my price to $150,000. That's crazy. Because all these homes back in a false economy, they are all selling for $700,000, $800,000, blah, blah, blah. And if I don't get that, then I'm just not going to sell my home. They're all greedy. And they're never going to sell their homes. But what's going to happen is and I've seen so much of this. I've seen a ton of apartments. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who drive around where I live and just overall United States in general, they'll think, man, look at all the apartments. And it seems like every place I'm going, they're building apartments. And I said, yeah, same out here too. But I said, who's going to live in these things? There's not all these jobs coming in. And there's not these big high-tech jobs. They're laying a lot of high-tech jobs off. Facebook, Google, they're letting people go. There's not a lot of hiring going on. Big, top hiring jobs. I mean, there's minimum wage, $17 an hour, $20 an hour, but people who are doing minimum wage, by the time they pay taxes and so on, they can barely afford rent. So there's not a lot of these big time paid jobs, and like a lot of some people said, you got to make 150,000 just to qualify at 6, 7, 8% at these overinflated housing just to get into your first home. Give me a break. There's hardly anybody who's making that much money, and if they are, they're not stupid enough to be buying overpriced houses. And you're going to get a lot of people who bought these homes, got these low interest rates, thought they were going to make a fortune in the investment world. They won't be able to sell them. They're going to be dumping their homes because we won't be able to afford all these homes. You're going to get a lot of Airbnbs who people bought. I mean, they were making money hand over the fist over the past 3 or 4 years because so many people didn't want to go to hotels or be close to people because of the pandemic. And now that that's pretty much over, now people are going, hey, forget it. I'll just stay at a hotel and, that'll be great and so on, and have all the amenities and a free breakfast and so on. And a lot of these people who are holding these Airbnbs, they're starting to panic. And a lot of the cities are starting to pass laws stating that we're going to treat Airbnbs just like hotels. So you can be licensed, certified, health, fire, electrical, zoning, so on. A lot of HOAs are saying, no, we don't want it in our neighborhood. They're eliminating Airbnbs. So there's going to be a lot of people who were making, they had payments of $3,000 a month, and they were selling, they were renting these things out for $1,000 a week, and they were making $4,000 or $5,000, making $1,000, $2,000 profit a month. Now they're not going to be doing it. They're going to be stuck. So they're going to probably start putting them out for long-term rentals, and there's going to be a ton of long-term rentals, which is going to make the rental market go down. Or they're going to just say, I've had it. The Airbnb was just a trend. I made a few bucks. That's great. I'm just dumping my house. I don't want to be a landlord long-term. Or if I can't get what I made on the income as Airbnb, and I have to lower it, I'm going to be paying half, and then by the time I pay taxes and insurance and all that stuff, I'm just going to break even. So it's not really a business opportunity anymore. So I'm going to be dumping those. And like I said, a lot of these builders, they're just giving incentives away, but they're not lowering the price of homes. And who cares about the incentives? And the reason why they aren't doing that, the new home builders, is because they have a blanket appraisal. And you got a lot of these people who bought in the communities, and when they bought in the communities, if they lower the price, they might now just wipe out anybody in the neighborhood that is trying to sell a home. And it's happening now. There's a lot of sellers who are in these neighborhoods, and they can't compete with the buyers. I mean, they can't compete with the builders because they can't give these incentives. And it's like, well, look at, if I'm trying to buy your home, and your home's been lived in for 5 years, and now I can buy a brand new home, I can get the interest rates half of what I get out there. I'm just going to buy I'm going to just buy new builders, which means that the people who bought in the communities, they're going to start lowering their price to try to compete with the builders, and it's just going to be a disaster, a total disaster this year. And I'm predicting, and like I said, I might be eating my words, we're going to see anywhere from 15 to 20% depreciation in the housing market this year. And that's what I'm predicting, a 15 to 20% probably depreciation. And now you have a lot of the foreclosure moratorium, they're gone. So you're going to see a lot of foreclosures, bank repos, a lot of short sales. And I just read and took a class on short sales. It is a disaster. It is total brain damage to try to get a short sale done. And you're going to get a lot of people who they were not in the market in 2008. Lenders, they've all gone. You get a lot of new people who aren't familiar with short sales. You're going to get short sales that'll last in 3, 4, 6 months to get a short sell through. And if you're upside down in a home, you can't just say, I'm upside down in a home, I want a short sale. You got to do a letter to tell the people why. It's called a hardship letter of why you can't afford your home and why you're asking for a short sale. It can't just be, hey, I got tons of money in the bank and I'm doing well and I got 4 of the houses, but this house is terrible and I'm upside down on this house, so I just need a short sale. They won't do it. They're going to say, sell your other properties and pay us off. That's what they're going to do. If you got a retirement that you're dealing with, cash in your retirement and pay us off. You got to be broke. You have to be absolutely no assets, out of a job, or maybe a health, like you really are disabled, but you still can't be making money. You got to be broke. And a lot of these people think, oh, I can always do a short sale if I go underwater and can't sell my home. No. If you've got a job, no. If you got assets, no. If you got other homes, no. If you've got, like I said, a pension, no. And like I said, in a lot of people who do short sales, they might have 4 or 5 buyers, and then the buyers say, I'm not going to put up with this. I've been waiting 2 weeks, haven't gotten an answer. Or here's the thing about short sales, which is really crazy, is real estate agents who list short sales, a lot of them are very inexperienced. They just have no clue. It's kind of earn while you learn attitude. It's like, well, we'll list, it's a short sale, and then we'll work on it later on. So what they do in a short sale is, let's say a buyer comes in and they say, this is a short sale. They put a price on, they do market analysis, do a short sale, and the seller just signs off on it. And they go, wow, we got a contract, man. The seller accepted. The seller doesn't care. The seller's not going to make a dime off the house. The only thing that seller's trying to prevent is a foreclosure. They can't make any money at all. Maybe occasionally the bank might give them moving expenses so they can move out, or like I said, they might say, hey, look, we'll give you $5,000 when you move if you keep the property up until we sell it and the new buyers come in. So there's some of those incentives. But other than that, the owners don't have any incentives to keep the property up. So they don't pay their payments, they don't pay the water bill, they don't pay the house insurance, they don't pay much of anything. So the homes go down and down and down. Weeds start growing. They're not fixing anything anymore because they're not going to make any profit. So what happens is the real estate agents tell the buyers who, oh, wow, the seller accepted the offer. Wow, it's a done deal. And the buyers get really excited. Oh, we got a contract. Oh, look at that. We got a screaming deal on a home. This is great. They tell the lender, but they don't tell the lender it's a short sale. They get an inspection. They get an appraisal. They get all this stuff. They're ready to close, and then a month doesn't close, 2 months doesn't close, and then 3 months the bank comes in and says, oh, we're not going to take the short sale. This is too much of a loss. But we will take this amount. And you go, well, the price that you're coming back with, I could buy any house in the neighborhood. And they're like, okay, well, good luck. See you later. Bye. So I always tell people, if you're purchasing a short sale, it's going to be total brain damage. If you're listing, if you're a real estate agent out there, there's a lot of them that listen to my podcast. Don't even tell anybody that your seller accepted the offer, because your seller is worthless until the bank signs off and says they've accepted the short sale. Then tell the buyer or the buyer's agent the bank has accepted the short sale. But so many real estate agents don't understand that. They just go, oh, the seller accepted it. Well, you could throw any price at them. The seller is accepting, because they're losing their house anyway. So on a short sale, you're going to be waiting probably 2, 3, 4, 6 months before you even get it done. So the only people that really buy short sales are people who are renting like, a long term, or they month to month, or investors that don't really care. They throw in an offer, and that's pretty much what it is. And sometimes the banks make more money on a foreclosure than a short sale, because they figure, hey, look at, back in the old days, years ago, a bank couldn't make any money off of a foreclosure. They would sell the house, and whatever was owed is what they got, and any difference they had to give to the owner. So let's say the house payment or the loan was $150,000, and they foreclosed, and there was an auction, or there was a foreclosure sale, and they had multiple offers, and somebody bid $200,000. Well, what they did is they can only recoup what they lost. So it was attorney's fees, late fees, so on. So let's say the loan was $150,000 and it was $180,000 that they had into it. So they paid themselves the $180,000 so they wouldn't take a loss, and the remainder would go to the owner, the owner that they foreclosed on. But nowadays, that's gone. The bank, when the owners leave and they foreclose, they give all rights up. And that's why a lot of banks will go in, and if the house is like really in disrepair, they go, look, is it worth to put new carpet, put some decent carpet, paint, clean up the yard, and can we get this market price? And a lot of banks will say, we're not going to give the house away. We can put $20,000 into this, fix it all up, and we can make a $50,000-$60,000 profit, and maybe even offer them good incentives if they use us to do the loan. So that's why you really got to know about foreclosures, because the days of getting a $600,000 home and you're going to pick it up for $450,000. It's going to be really tough to get that, because the banks aren't going to do it, because they'll fix the house up and sell it themselves. Now, if they're getting a ton of foreclosures, they just want to unload them. They want to get them off the books, so they're just, we'll get it off the books, and you can pick up some good deals, but you really don't know how many banks have all these foreclosures. You just don't know. I mean, it's unless you do some, a lot of research. But they're trying to get them off the books because they look bad, because it looks like they've done really bad loans. So they want to try to get them off the books. But like I said, this year, you're going to see probably 15 to 20% drop in housing prices. You're going to see a lot of builders going bankrupt. Boy, I saw it in the 80s. I saw it in the 90s. I saw it in the 2008s, where they just put a fence around a lot of their subdivisions and walked off and filed bankruptcies. And there's a lot of builders who are probably on the verge of that, because there's only so many naive buyers that will buy these overpriced homes at 4 or 5% interest rates, and then finally when they start seeing all the other houses prices collapse and the prices around them are 50, 60, $100,000 less that they bought their homes, and they see that they're buried in them. They're gonna be, if there's any financial problems that happen or divorce, or they lose their job or something, they're gonna be walking away from them. So it's gonna be a real interesting year in the housing market, because like I said, there's only so many naive buyers that I think last year kind of kept the market up. And once those disappear and the builders can't just persuade people by giving them $75,000, $100,000 worth of incentives, and builders are like, and the market dries up and buyers can't afford it and incentives aren't going to do it, you're going to see it just go down fast. I've seen it, and like I said, we saw maybe 5% last year, which isn't a lot. We're going to see, like I said, 15 to 20% this year. So, like I said, maybe at the end of 2024, I might be wrong, but like I said, I think the party's over, and if you're sitting on the sidelines, just keep sitting. And like I said, if you didn't sell your home, you probably won't. I just talked to somebody who was trying to sell their investment property, and I said, you're 3 years too late, man. I mean, you're never going to sell. And it was so outrageously priced. And then I said, hey, guess what? And they live in California. I said, you're going to be 30% capital gains tax because it was an investment property. And then you're probably going to pay California tax, and that's what, 13%. And then you got to count the profits and income. You're going to get hosed by paying income. And I said, if you sell it for $1 million, after everything's paid, you might walk away with like 500,000 or 600,000. And I said, I'm not a accountant, but I said, talk to an accountant or your tax attorney. And they came back and said, wow, John, thanks, we're just taking it off the market because it probably, we'll just wait because it's not costing much of anything to hold the property. But they're just saying, my God, we didn't realize we probably have to pay half of what we sell it to just in taxes. And I'm like, yeah, that's about what'll happen. But a lot of these people won't be like that. They're going to be burying these things, and they're going to have to. They're going to have to pay capital gains if they sell. And like I said, here's the thing that's really interesting: if you lose on investment properties, I'm not giving you tax advice here, but you can write off the loss on investment properties because if it's an investment. But if it's a home and it's your personal residence, you can't write off the loss. Period. So like I said, I'm not giving you tax advice here. But like I said, that's why when people lose, on their home, they can't just write it off on their taxes. Oh, also on a short sale, just to kind of end this, if you owe the bank $500,000 and they take a $400,000 payoff, they can come back to you and do a deficiency. They can come back to you on $100,000. So they can say, we're going to take a short payoff of $400,000, but we're not just going to write the whole loan off. We're going to put a judgment against you on $100,000. Or you have to do, an IRS form, and IRS could come back and say, hey, we're going to charge you taxes on the $100,000 deficiency. So sometimes people do a short payoff, and then what happens is they get this IRS bill a year, 2, 3 years, and it says, guess what? You owe us this amount because of the fact that you did a short payoff and didn't pay the loan in full. And they count the $100,000 as income. So now you're paying taxes on $100,000 income that you never had because you did a short payoff. So it gets really ugly. And I think 2024, not wishing, not wishing anyone to be having any financial problems, but I think you're going to see a lot of layoffs, a lot of homes being on the market that can't sell. Like I said, in 2024, I kept saying, why is there such a lack of inventory? There wasn't a lack of inventory. It's just so many sellers took their homes off the market because they decided they couldn't get the outrageous prices. So they thought, forget it. We'll just take it off the market. And it was, I said, tons of cancels, tons of expired listings, tons of withdrawal. So, like I said, it wasn't that I was wrong. It's just that was kind of a propped up market with naive buyers who were just buying these homes and a lot of sellers who just didn't want to give their homes away, even though if they sold them at market price because they owned them for 10, 15 years, they'd still make a bundle, but they were so damn greedy that like, well, if I can't get $700,000 for my house like they've been getting for the past 2 years, and I just won't sell it. Well, good luck, buddy, because you're going to be living in that house until the day you die. Like I said, I have seen so many people that greed gets the best of them. Greed gets the best of them. Even like the people that were selling their home, their investment property, I said, geez, even if you have to pay the taxes, because they had everything paid off, I said, you're still walking away with $600,000, buddy. Oh, if we can't get what we want, then forget it. Good grief. There's just so many people that just think they can live off of pride and greed, and they end up all broke and out on the streets. I'm not looking at, or ridiculing or being bad to homeless people. But yeah, you go around and you see these, I saw so many jobs now hiring $17 an hour, $20 an hour, blah, blah, blah. And, so many people that I talked to said, yeah, the homeless just want to be homeless because they just don't want to work. And the people that do work, they get off the streets. And, it's just so much, so many people that just, it's much easier to create excuses than to, go out and get a job that, they all become victims. And I think that's the thing with what's going on. There's going to be a lot of foreclosures, a lot of, people, selling their homes at whatever they could get for them. And yeah, they're not going to walk away with $1 million, but they might walk away with 500, but they're going to go, oh yeah, we only walked away with 500,000. God, we had to give our house away. Geez, it was tough. The market really went down and, geez, we just gave it away. It's like, no, you didn't give it away, buddy. You got what the market will bear. You just came up with some dream price that didn't make any sense. And now you have to sell it to what the real world is going to pay for it. And you think, oh, you gave it away. Just greed, 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 greed. That's the biggest sin in the world that we have today is greed. If you ever look at it, it's greed, greed, greed. And I don't think people just appreciate that you woke up today and you're here. You thank the good Lord that you're here and quit thinking the world owes it to you. And if you don't get what you think that's owed you, oh, I'm a victim and so on. If I can't sell my house for this amount of money, then I just won't sell it at all. Well, good luck. Like my father years ago said, JD, you can't live on pride. But a lot of these people, they're so proud. They're just, and they're all living in tents, or a van down by the river. Well, I wish them luck. I wish them luck. So, guys, Like I said, if you own a home and you lose your job, I feel sorry for you. And, I know what it's like to be under a lot of financial strain. But, your health, if you're healthy, like somebody told me, if money's your problem, you really don't have any problems because you can always make a buck some way legally. You can always find a job someplace or be an entrepreneur and cut lawn, shovel snow, build something, do side gigs and so on, deliver pizzas or sweep floors. You can always do something. But if you think you're too good to do jobs like that, guess what? Then go out to this Goodwill and buy yourself a tent, because you're going to be right with the homeless people, living in a tent and saying to everybody how you were a victim, and it's your pride that you're a victim too. Not because nobody's giving you a break. It's because you just don't want to go out and do what you need to do to make it happen. So, folks, I really appreciate every one of you who've listened to my podcast over the years. I know sometimes it's humorous, sometimes I try to do some really good information, try to be straight with you guys, because like I said, it's real estate for the common man. I want to keep it simple. I want to talk to the common everyday guy that's working her or his or her tails off to just make ends meet. And hopefully, if you own a home, thank the good Lord that you have a home. If you're renting, thank the good Lord that you're renting. If you got a job, guys, thank the good Lord that you got a job. And if you don't have a job, guess what? Just keep on keeping on, man. Somebody told me, make a plan and work the plan. And if you don't have a plan, then your plan is to fail. So, guys, I wish you luck. Have a great 2024. And hey, if you win the lottery, hey, you know where to find me. Thank you very much. Have a great week, and I'll talk to you later. See you later. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.
We hope you enjoyed the show, Real Estate for the Common Man. Please follow us or subscribe. Tell your friends, neighbors, relatives, and coworkers about us. We're on all your major podcast apps: Amazon, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. If you can't remember all that, just Google it, or have your friends Google Real Estate for the Common Man and it will come up. Again, we thank you very much for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed the show. Hey, if you live in Colorado Springs and want to buy or sell a home, you can look us up at soldrealestatecompany.com, as in I sold a home. Again, thank you very much. Have a very good week, and we'll see you next Monday.